Hello, and welcome to Humble Conversations. Today, I'm here with Dr. Heather Day.
What an honor it is to be here.
You don't have to lie, it's okay.
I am so excited to be here.
No, so I chose her to talk about relationships because two classes that you've taught me have been basically about the dynamics in relationships. And from what you've talked about in classes, you're so smart and so wise. And you spend like a lot of your time learning and reading, and I think it's so important. And honestly, if I made this podcast about anything, I feel like you would have such good insight and like be able to talk about anything. If it's like religion, friendships, relationships, like literally anything, politics, you could have even talked about it. But so today we're talking about relationships.
Yay, I'm so excited. And I will tell you, it's funny, I didn't know. She had sent me the questions ahead of time. I did not read them. And as I found out, as I sat down that we're talking about relationships, I was thinking in my car as I was driving in this morning about just randomly the thought came into my mind. I saw a car that actually reminded me of my ex-fiance. And I thought, man, like, because I called off my wedding 2 months before the wedding. Oh. And as I was driving in today, I was like, that was the worst time probably of my life. And looking back now, 10, 15 years later, I would do it again. Like everything from that experience has given me so many great conversations that I've been able to have with students and women. And so it's just interesting how whatever situation you're sitting in right now that you feel like this is the worst thing that has ever happened to me. It is wild how with time and reflection and healthy experiences, you may look back and say, and I wouldn't even change it because of now the story that I get to have to share with someone else.
Wow. That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that outlook.
It's true.
So I want you to introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us about Dr. Day.
So whenever people say, who are you? I always say, I am forever a teacher and forever a student. I am somebody that just personality-wise, I don't know if you guys know the Enneagram. I'm an Enneagram 3. I love encouraging people. I love telling people what I see in them. I'll do it through the drive-through. If I see something,
the minute
say
she
something.
sat down, she started telling me how good it is that I'm doing this.
It is good. And if you're watching and you're a student, like whatever stirrings that the Lord puts on your heart to do, never think, oh, I'm too young or it's not really going to matter. You have to start somewhere, and you have no idea how when we show up with our little things, God grows those and gives us experiences and then blesses them. And then 10 years later, you're doing this exact same thing on a television network, which sounds crazy right now, but you don't know.
Yeah.
I really mean that. You don't know. And you don't know until you start down a path. And it's like a snowball that just keeps adding and growing and gets bigger and bigger with time and experience. But so I'm forever a teacher. I love encouraging people, and I'm forever a student. I love learning, and I hope I never stop. I try to read. My goal is to always just read 12 books a year. That's one book a month. But I often will do about 30. I want to learn as much as I can, especially because I'm a teacher, and I'm aware that, okay, if they're not going to read it, how do I read it? Because I enjoy it. And then take those concepts and break them down so that somebody else can at least get the knowledge that I got in a smaller bite-sized way.
That's so good, because I feel like a lot of teachers, they think that like they know everything and to teach it, but you're keeping the student part of you, and I think that's so interesting.
Yeah, I would say you can't think you know everything if you're actually learning, because every book I read, I learn something that I'm like, this changes it. Every book I read, I learn something that I say, I had no idea that this concept even existed.
Wow. And
now it's changing how I see this, this, and this. So the more I learn, the more I realize there is to learn. And it just keeps you in that hunger state posture.
That's so cool. Do you ever read like the same book twice?
No, I'm not that person.
Oh.
Do you watch the same movie twice?
Sometimes.
Some people do. I'm not that person. Once I've done it, I'm done.
Interesting.
Yeah. With movies too. You know how people like have a favorite television show that they'll rewatch? I don't do that.
Really? Because I've watched like Grey's Anatomy. I've watched Friends like
you watch
5
it over
times
and over.
Through,
Yeah, some people. So why we're gonna get to that chapter just so you know next week. I'm gonna ask you next week, but think about it because there's something in you then that likes that that experience of I know what's coming next.
Yeah, it's comfort,
right? Isn't it? I just love this. I love communication. Be a comm major. So fascinating.
I agree. You know how many people I say comms is so interesting
they don't
that
understand.
They should do it? They don't.
It's because I wonder if it's like there's been bad communication, people not communicating what communication is.
Yeah, I think people just don't know what it is. Because I didn't even know what it is when I switched into it for like months after that. But anyway, so...
Communication is the study of relationship building. How do we build relationships between organizations and target markets, or people and other people?
There you go. So, be in comms.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're talking about relationships. And the first question is, what do you think about the idea of if he wanted to, he would?
What do you think about that idea? I'm just curious.
That's so weird. I've never had anybody ask me that.
That's so weird that you're asking me the question that I wanted to ask you.
I think removing that mentality has like been the best part, or that saved my relationship, because I was always waiting on him or like on other people to do what I wanted. But first of all, if I'm not telling them what I want, and they can't read my mind, and why would I wait for that? Like, for me, I'm very physical touch, like, in my relationships, and so if he was not like holding a part of my finger, I would be so upset and like think he hated me and whatever. And so instead of asking him, can you hold my hand, I would go and hold, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I would take control of that, because I can't control if he does or doesn't. And why would I get mad if he doesn't know that that's what I need? So I think it's overrated and destructive.
Okay, I think both things are true. I think if he wanted to, he would, after I've set my expectations. Most of what we struggle with in relationships is that I never told you my expectations.
Okay.
And then we get mad at people for not meeting things. I just read this example once of a birthday party, and like this woman was right. It was Brene Brown, actually. She's talking about how for her, birthdays were always such a big deal. And so she expected her husband to like do some big, massive thing for her birthday. But in his family, birthdays weren't a big deal. Right? So it was like, he'd say, hey, let's go to dinner. Happy birthday. Get her a gift. And she was like, where's my party? Where's the cake? I want to be doted on. So in her family, that's what she experienced. And then she married him. So the expectation fell short. But she never told him what those expectations were.
Right.
So yes, tell people what you expect of them. But also, in general, this is like, I hate to be so general, because I think all people are unique and individuals. But there are some research on like, if you survey 100 men, like 60% of them or 70% of them statistically will respond in this way. I think it is true that on average, if a man wants to, he will.
Interesting.
As far as what are we in this relationship?
Yeah.
I like you. I want to be in a committed relationship with you. I think those are things that come naturally to them. I don't think that's the same thing as far as I want to go somewhere on my birthday. I desire physical touch. Yeah, somebody totally might not know that if their family wasn't touching.
Yeah.
Think about that. I mean, how do you learn what you want other than our families? And anytime we get in a relationship, that's the hardest part. It's the blending together of two very different family dynamics that have totally socialized you into what you think is now normal. But it's not normal. It's your normal.
I've heard that your love language is based off what you haven't received in your family and in your childhood. Is that real?
I haven't heard that.
Really?
But I'm not huge. Like, I don't do all the love language stuff. So I will take your cue. If that's you, everybody should read the 5 love languages. I have not. That's like one book I haven't read. I'm going to read it. I'm going to add that to my list. I haven't read that. I'm trying to think now about mine. Mine is like quality time. I feel like I had a lot of quality time with my family though. Yeah. So I don't know.
It could be either way. If it's something you haven't
either
had
well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I then it becomes broad. But I think we do tend to reinforce or look to fill what we had or didn't have.
Yeah. How do you keep or maintain your independence while you're in a relationship?
I think you have, well, what is independence? I think that means different things to different people, right? Like for me, my independence is not necessarily about the way I spend my time or like I go out with my friends. That for me, independence is like, I know who I am. I know what I enjoy. I know what I'm here to do with my life. And so I think it's hard to lose that if you know what the answers to those questions are.
Wow, that's interesting. Because I've always heard of or thought, and I think it's normal in this society now of independence is the ability to, I guess, do what you want. which I think...
but that's just not, I don't, this is me. I'm not saying that this is true for all people. I don't think when we get in relationships, the goal is to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I do think we have to like fulfill why we're here. And those are two different things. Am I with somebody who is helping me fulfill while I'm here, is thinking about those questions with me, is encouraging me, hey, if something that's important to me is like having understanding like the global church, I'm just giving an example, cultural humility. Do I have a partner that is saying, hey, you should apply to go to that semester abroad? That that is who you are. That is like a level of independence because I'm letting you go and I'm blessing you in going. But it's because of who I know you are, not like just, I want to go get drunk with my friends on a Saturday night with somebody who's not texting me, where are you?
That's good. That's really good. Well, that felt a little targeted because I'm also thinking about going but
okay, my fiance got really, really angry with me because I went. That's why I used the example because I was going to go study abroad, and so I didn't. I never went to Argentina. All my friends went because he was so threatened by it, and I look back and I'm like, that was such a mistake. And I think my husband now is like, he's a quality, I want to use the word clingy, but he's a quality time person. He definitely wants to be with me. And I think it would be very hard for him too, if I was to say, I'm going to go study abroad for a year, but also he loves me more than he loves himself. So I think he would have been like, hey, this is a really good opportunity. I understand.
I think that's the difference with like actual love and control or obsessiveness.
Yeah. So love is, because we just use that word. I'm a big calm person, right? So you have to define, what does that word mean? Because I think all the time, and especially I have a whole other thing about this in Christianity, we just say stuff. We say words, but nobody ever says, what does that word mean? Even when you say independent, a communication person says, what does independence look like to you? What does that word mean? That's how we make sure that we're on the same conversation. We're even having the same conversation, right? You could get in an argument with your boyfriend over, I want to be independent. And you never define, what does that look like for you? What does that mean? What are you really asking? Are you asking to study abroad? Are you asking to go out with your friends to a bar and that makes me uncomfortable? Those are two different things. Yeah. So anyway, love, the actual word love, is the blending together of two primary emotions, which is trust and joy. So we cannot experience love. We will call things love. We will say that we will use love to cover a variety of sins. But it is not love unless you are experiencing at the same time the two emotions of trust and joy.
Wow.
So do I fully trust you? And for me, trust is, do I trust you to want what's best for me even if I can't see it? That's part of how I analyze trust. Do I trust you to do the right thing by me even if I would never find out if you didn't? That's how I quantify trust. If I can say those things about you and I have joy with you, I love you.
I hope you know I'm going to have so many quotes at the end of this.
Oh, good.
I'm
so glad.
Ooh. So, okay, I posted a while ago when we first scheduled this podcast, I wrote on Instagram and it was like a little text box. And I was like, what are your hardest things about relationships, or the hardest questions, or what do you struggle most with relationships? And somebody put, how do you handle jealousy in a relationship?
Yeah. So jealousy, I think in communication textbook is like, because for me it's like, what does that mean to you? Is the threat that something will hurt this relationship. So unfortunately, it's like everybody's definition of what makes them feel jealous is totally different based on our experiences. My sister she married the only boy she'd ever kissed, and he cheated on her. Wow. That impacts her second marriage to her stable, Mabel, faithful, loyal husband, right? She may experience jealousy not because of anything he's doing, but because of the experiences that she has had. And so that is for her to work out, not her husband. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like that question to me, I'd have to understand more of like, jealousy in what way? Ask yourself, why am I feeling jealous? Being curious with your own thoughts and not making judgments on them, because it's like, if you've been cheated on, why would you not be uncomfortable? Yeah. That is the pattern for your brain that you've experienced, and you know what it means to be hurt. So maybe give yourself grace for those feelings and then work through, okay, but is this relationship that relationship? Your brain may tell you it is. It's not. Right?
Yeah.
But those are things that we learn as we like spend time in therapy. Everybody should be in therapy. We all need to ask ourselves good questions of just be curious with our own emotions. Why am I feeling this way? Am I feeling jealous because there is a reason? Because this person is disrespecting my boundaries. Who wouldn't feel jealous in this situation with what the way they're behaving and what they're doing, right? So I don't think jealousy is bad.
It's just knowing why and
ask yourself why. What is prompting this? Where is it coming from?
And is it actually the person, or is it just
is it the person, or is it me? There's so many things that go into whatever feelings that we feel based on our life and our experiences.
Yeah. Along with jealousy, what boundaries do you think should be set in relationships? Obviously, not every relationship's the same.
Yeah.
But what boundaries?
Like, what do you mean?
Somebody put the example of hanging out with the opposite sex, or
that I think is, again, I don't know if I can make a sweeping statement on that, because I think we're all different and we all have different personalities.
Absolutely.
This is like I don't come at me in the comments because we're all different, right? I am saying probably a rule for me and my relationships would be that you don't have best friends of the opposite sex.
That's a big thing.
I think everybody should have friends. I think that's healthy
Yeah.
that we have relationships. I don't think we should sexualize everybody of the opposite sex. Because I know what intimacy actually is, at least in communication, we define intimacy as self-disclosure. So intimacy is not sex. It is just self-disclosure. So if I am in deep self-disclosure with somebody who's not my partner, I am literally in intimacy with somebody who is not my partner. That to me would be a relational threat, because that's how you build relationship, is intimacy, right?
Yeah.
So even if nothing sexual is going on, I am experiencing the deepest level of human intimacy that I can experience with somebody who's not my partner. It just seems like an unhealthy invitation or door to open. So that would be best friends for me, where you're really sharing with each other your deepest thoughts, dreams, fears. I think that should be reserved for your partner. But like friendships, hanging out, casual, talking about work, talking about school, for me, that I wouldn't struggle with that with my partner having female friends.
Okay. Ooh, maybe I won't say.
What?
We kind of talked about that yesterday.
Oh. Yeah, no, let's talk about it.
Okay. The question is, what do you think is the best way to break up with someone?
Celeste, what do you think is the best way to break up with someone?
It's because we talked about this yesterday.
Yes.
That's what it is.
And I think it's okay.
Right.
No? But, Celeste, what do you think is the best way to break up with someone?
I honestly don't know.
Really?
In terms of like the medium, I would say in person.
If possible.
But yeah. But at the same time, it's more of like, ooh, how would you say? Would you say things to like lead them on? Or I don't know.
I think clear is kind.
Clear is kind.
I think the nicest thing you can do for somebody is to be really clear. If there is not a chance of you getting back together, don't say that there is, because that's actually not kind. You are setting somebody up to keep hoping and waiting and not fully invest in other relationships because they think that something might happen here. I think clear is kind. I think you are a great person. I am not interested in a romantic relationship with you. I feel like I'm looking for something else, but I genuinely think you are a great person. That can be clear and kind.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to insult somebody or tear them down.
This was another question from Instagram. Why do you think right now in this society it's so hard to find the right person, or to find
Social media? I think we are living in different communication theories, we decide who we are going to stay. Is this social exchange? I think it's social exchange theory. We decide who we are going to be in a relationship with based on the set of potential alternative options available. So meaning, I'm trying to try to say it without any confusing language. If I feel like there are a lot of other options for me, I become less dependent on this current relationship. So that can be, the example I give in class is that can be as non-personal as one person is in high school, the other person is in college. In college, there are just statistically more people. So that person in college now has more potential alternative options available to them. I may become less dependent on my relationship than the person who's in high school and maybe has 500 kids in their high school. So I feel like this relationship is everything to me. Yeah. That can be somebody is more extroverted and it's easy for me to meet people and start conversation. And so it feels like, of course I could meet somebody new. I meet people all the time. I do it every time I go somewhere. Whereas an introverted person may feel like it's so hard for me to connect to people. So I'm now more intense on this relationship. So I think the problem to find people is social media. I have so many potential alternative options available to me. I am still getting DMs. I am still getting reactions on my story from guys from high school. Wow. Not me. I'm saying for a lot of, I'm saying for, maybe I am. I don't know. I don't pay attention to my DMs. But for a lot of people, everybody you've ever talked to for even 5 minutes is still connected to you through your Instagram. Tinder, all of the apps that allow me to meet people. I can go on a really good date where I'm like, oh my goodness, I really connected to that person. I really like that person. But when I get home, there's 6 more matches on my phone. You are kidding yourself if you think that that's not impacting now how you see your date. Yeah. Whereas if you didn't have those matches when you checked your phone, your brain would just be thinking about the date you had. There are so many, the over-connection of our culture today has created so many potential alternative options available to us that I think it makes people really struggle to commit. Wow. Even to like really great people, because you're worried, well, what if there's somebody better? Because your brain keeps seeing other options.
That's so true. I think that implies not only in the aspect of like, of physical, of like, leaving somebody because this person has it better, but I wanted to bring that up because there was a quote that I saw that I think was so important and so good, and it kind of brings in religion a little bit. So it's like, don't miss out on a rib for a butt. You know what I'm saying? Okay, it's funny, but like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I get it.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought it was important.
Yes, but I like to point out that those potential alternative options are not just about looks. Yeah, because exactly. A lot of times I think what happens is in a breakup, we feel like, oh, well, the other person must be more attractive than me. That is not true. It could just be that the other person is in closer proximity than you, right? It could just be that the other person is an extrovert, so they meet more people. Yeah. These things, how we decide our potential alternative options is really about us and not about the other person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I was going to bring it up later, but I want to bring it up now because we kind of touched on it a little bit. What do you think about dating apps in a relationship?
So, what do you mean in a relationship?
If somebody's in a relationship, and then,
should they still have a dating app?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that would happen.
It happens.
That is shocking to me.
I went on a TikTok, and I screenshotted the comments. Oh yeah, this was just some of them. My ex said he was just trying to make friends on Tinder. And then my ex said she forgot she had it, but she was still getting notifications.
Yeah, no, that would be a huge red flag. Yeah. If my partner, I mean, we're already going to have all these potential alternative options available. An app is only further reinforcing that. That would be I would never trust somebody who is telling me I am just using it to make friends.
Yeah.
What, you have an Instagram, get a Facebook. What do you need a Tinder to make friends? That is, sis, no.
Good.
Red flag.
Red flag. Absolutely. Should relationships be 50-50?
I mean, it's hard for me to say because I feel like, what is 50-50? Where are you deciding? What does that term actually mean?
I think they're 50-50 is, I guess, about everything in the relationship. Financial, emotional, whatever.
Oh, I think no for me.
Really?
No.
Why?
I'm not somebody that requires 50-50 because I feel like there's areas that my husband is better at than me, and I think relationships, I see it as like complementary partnership. And I view kind of all my relationships in that way. I have friends where I would say, you know, there might be things like maybe I'm more financially stable than that friend, but they have other things that they do for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I might be more likely to say, I'm going to pay for our lunch when we go out. I just think relationships are complementary. You'll have weaknesses, they'll have strengths. And the goal is to find somebody that complements you and your life and the things that you want and meets expectations, right, that you have. You have to ask I think rarely do people sit and think, what are my expectations of a relationship? Yeah. And we just start saying people don't meet things. But what were they? And are you vocalizing them to yourself and to them? Life, I think, really, I just said this to my friend the other day. I just drove up to Detroit to see her. And I was telling her, like, you have to know where you're going. You can't just, if you get in a car and drive, you'll keep circling a parking lot if you don't know where you're going. Yeah. And when you decide, okay, this is where I think I'm going, it changes the way you drive. It changes the relationships that you have. It changes the conversations you have in the car. My big push to anybody would be, ask yourself, why am I here? I mean, on this earth. Yeah. Why am I here? And that will change the type of relationships that you invest in. That will change what you think your expectations are when you have clarity on why you're here and what you're doing.
That's so good. So with that, do you think the one exists for people?
So this is a hot take. This is a controversial take that I don't know a lot of other people that agree with me on this. That I feel my husband is like my soulmate. I feel he was chosen for me by God. I really believe that. And I know a lot of people that are like, oh, there's like lots of people that you could be. And it's true. Like statistically, you're compatible with 1 out of every 7 people. So go on 7 more dates and you'll find somebody else you're compatible with. Wow. I think that is true. I think that we can just make a really good choice. I'm a Christian also, though. And it's like, if I believe God has a job for me, right? Like literally we'll say, God brought me this job. Why would God not bring me my man? Like I believe that God wants to be involved in every aspect of our lives. Right. The school my kids go to, the job that I have, the town that we live in. I think God positions us with purpose. And so for me, that bleeds into relationships as well, friendships as well. That's how I think. But it's not popular. Most people don't agree with that.
I like that you touched on that there's still other people that you're compatible with. So how do you know if you're just compatible with them enough or if they're the one chosen for you?
Well, but that's like a worldview, right? Like, so for some people it's like, oh, I feel like, so in social exchange it would say, when you feel like this is the greatest amount of reward, right, that I can get out of any relationship. So I could swap the person, but the reward level won't change as far as how happy I am, how fulfilled I feel, how connected I feel. Even if there was somebody else that's just as compatible, why am I switching relationships when it's the reward really that I'm looking for as far as how this person makes me feel? Does that make sense? So some social exchange theorists would say you decide to commit when you think there's nothing better, only switching people to give me this same result. So then why would I do it? For me, spiritually, how do I know? I mean, I'm a big believer in, like, I started this, I remember being in a religion class in college, and we did like this fast day. We had to fast, and I fasted for the first time ever. And my prayer was, God, am I supposed to be with this person that I was about to fly out to see him? I had already bought my plane ticket. I really liked him. And I said, Lord, I'm putting this relationship for you, like, on the altar. If you don't want this for me, will you end this relationship? And literally that same day after I like finished this prayer experience in my class, my friend sent me DMs that he had sent her talking about me and kind of flirting with her. And I was like, okay, wow. I literally, so I feel like because I have seen God intervene in my life, make things very clear, I just believe that God will keep intervening and making things clear. I get that that's like a religious choice that I have made. That's just how I experience things. Other people, I think God does speak. I think we don't listen. I think sometimes God says, this is not for you. Yeah. And you're like, but I really want it. Yeah. Right? And so then he's like, okay, then I think the mercy of God is to go with you wherever you go, even when you make the wrong choice.
This is very debatable. Now, and I think it has been for a while. Do you think once a cheater, always a cheater?
Oh, no.
No?
Mm-mm. No. Do I think people are always the same? No. I think everybody's capable of, I think every person is capable of better. But that's the teacher in me, right? Like,
Right.
I have seen people grow. That's like literally my job. I have watched people come at 8. In college, you come at 18 years old, you're a kid, you're out of high school, and you leave and you're getting hired at somebody's Fortune 500 company. You leave and you're this adult. I have seen people change over that 4-year period of university experience. And so I don't think any of us are the sum of our worst choices or our worst actions. And also, maybe you didn't like them that much. I think it's one thing to cheat on somebody who, like, you just weren't that committed to the relationship. You really, you were biding time, or you were trying to make things work and you just weren't madly in love with them. I think it's another thing to cheat on somebody that you're madly in love with, and people do both, right? If you cheat on somebody you're madly in love with, I mean, that is a choice, right? Like, maybe you struggle with impulse control or something, that I would definitely see a therapist and say, oh, I want to make sure I never do this to somebody that I love and care about again. I don't think that, I think all of us are capable. There's this book, Philip Zimbardo, essentially what the whole premise of the book, and they keep showing all these different studies. Maybe you can look it up and put it, it's Philip Zimbardo. The Lucifer Effect. Okay. I think that's it. The Lucifer Effect. He's making the case that every single person is capable of almost anything if you put them in the right situation. And so he shows all these studies, like Nazi Germany, people who are good people, the United States, right? These good Christian people murdering and torturing Black people. The argument is you are only degrees away from whatever it is you think you would never do. Wow. And so I think everybody's capable of doing something bad and hurtful to somebody else. And also everybody's capable of being better than that. And it's a daily choice that you have to make in which direction you're driving your car.
That's beautiful. Is there like maybe that's a bad question. Is there like a time frame of somebody, if they're like, oh, I cheated on my past relationship, but it's been a month and I'm not, or I've changed. Is that believable?
I mean, I do think, that's what I'm saying, like, were they in love in that past relationship? And are they in love now?
So it depends why.
I think so. Yeah. I think that it depends on what was happening in the relationship and the experience and what was happening within themselves, that they felt like, I need this validation from somebody outside of my partner. The hope is that we all grow up and realize, oh, my actions have an effect on other people. Obviously, like, the best thing to do if you're not happy in a relationship is to break off that relationship, clear as kind. Yeah. Right? And not hurt them by, or hurt your own character by cheating on them. That would be, I think, the preference, but that takes a level of maturity that maybe somebody doesn't have yet. That doesn't mean that they won't have it in a year.
Do you believe in right person, wrong timing?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I think timing is everything. I absolutely believe right person, wrong timing.
Really? But what if it's the right person, is there really a wrong timing?
Yes.
Why?
Oh my goodness, we're going through different things in our lives. What if something is blocking me from being able... Here's my example that I'll give on that. I gave my husband my number 2 years before he ever called me. I was the right person, but at the time I gave him my number, I think he had a girlfriend at that time. And he kept the number, but he did not use it. He didn't call me. And then I met somebody else a couple months after that. And I often look back and I say, I am glad I did not date him at that time. He was in a really, really, really bad place. And I just think if you emotionally only have so much to give yourself, it's not always a good time to give emotionally to another person. I don't know if he had called me then, if he wasn't dating her and he had called me then, maybe we would have thought, oh, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But at the time, he called me on the night I called off my wedding. that I said I called it off 2 months before I got married. He called me on that exact same night. So that timing for probably both of us always felt like a divine intervention, which changed probably the way I engaged with him or even our problems, because it felt like, well, this is really weird that you took out that note I gave you 2 years prior on the exact night I call off my wedding. That weird. Felt like God was in this from the very beginning. But had he called me 2 years prior when I wanted him to, I don't even think I would have. My husband is so introverted, right? So I wonder if and my ex that I called off the wedding from was so charismatic, so extroverted, and I was really attracted to that type of personality. It took me seeing like the negative sides of those personalities to see that my personality, I think, goes better with my husband's. And I didn't know that when I was 20. Yeah. But I discovered that when did he call me? I would have been 22. Right? So I think you may miss the right person because you're looking for the wrong things, or you think that they don't match. I have another friend that her husband, she had known him as we're praying for a husband for her. She had known this man for like 3 years, and he liked her, was trying to date her, and she friend zoned him because she felt like religious enough. And she wanted somebody who was going to spiritually lead her. You know how Christian women often do that. And she said, well, this guy's not a strong Christian, so surely that's not my person for me. But her theology changed over like a 3-year period. She grew more. And now I would think she would say, I definitely say, God could not have brought her a better partner. She doesn't need someone to lead her spiritually. She's a leader herself. You know what I mean? She's led him straight to the cross, and he is now like a uber Christian, where before he was like not sure how he felt about God. So I think she couldn't see that in herself at whatever age it was that she first met him, maybe 25, but now they're married. They got married, I think, when she turned 30, and she was like a grown woman then, and she was able to see, oh, the right thing has been in front of me this whole time, and I missed it because I was looking at things I thought were right but were actually wrong. Wow.
So you would say a piece of advice, I guess, is not looking at what you think you need now, but what you'll need in the future? Or what you... Or it's hard to see it right now.
I know. Guess, I am a big believer in throwing away... I've written blogs about this, throwing away your list. Like, have care. I believe in, like, character traits that I'm looking for. Yeah. Is this person loyal? Can I trust them? Yeah. Do they care for other people? But I think what we often do is we'll get bogged down, at least women do, I think, on like, well, what job does he have? How much money is he going to make?
Yeah. Because that'll change.
Things can change. You know what I mean? But character is forever. So, I think throw away the list. Look for people who, this is the way I phrase it, look for people who... I think of like God as my dad, especially as my dad has been diagnosed with a disease that's changed our relationship. And so I often like say, is this somebody that I could bring to God as my dad, and him say, he wants what's best for you. I trust his heart towards you. Wow. That's how I would decide, who am I going to marry? Who am I going to be in a relationship with? If God would say, I trust his intentions toward you. And that might not be a religious person.
Wow.
There are people who are not religious for a variety of different experiences that they've had with the church or other people, who are good people with hearts of gold, who God would say, I trust this person with your heart. I think we have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Character is so important to me.
Does love at first sight exist?
So statistically, men say yes, and women say no. I didn't have love at first sight experience, but I don't know if I would. I'm like a very heady person. But my dad was on Broadway. My mom was his waitress. He was, before the show, they went and had lunch at this fancy restaurant. And actually, the woman my mom worked with was going to my dad's show. They didn't know this, but so she asked my mom to take her shift, which left my mom to work the restaurant. Wow. So the woman had tickets to that show that my dad was in town to do. It was Jesus Christ Superstar. So she said, hey, Vicky, will you take my shift? I'm going to go see this show tonight. My mom was like, oh, I've seen Jesus Christ Superstar. It's fine. Like, yeah, I'll work your shift. My dad ended up coming in for lunch. And he says that he has always said, the second he saw her, when she came and took their order, he turned to his friend and said, that is my wife. And he believes like a spirit that the Lord was like, boom, that's her. He felt this thing.
Did she feel that?
No.
Interesting.
They're in a racial relationship. My mom, I don't even think, had known a black person. And my dad had never been in a relationship with a white person either. But the second he saw her, he said, that's her. And he gave her tickets to the show. She ended up going, and they've been together ever since.
That's so cool. I love that.
So I believe in love at first sight. I guess. Because at least with my dad's story, I'm not saying it happens for everybody, but I think it can happen for some of us.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cute. I feel like some people are either, oh, it happens, or no, it doesn't. So I know.
Don't we love, we love being like, yes, no, categorical, right, wrong. The world is gray. There's so much gray.
So I ask a kind of a funny question.
Okay.
Feel free. You don't have to answer it if you don't want. But I remember when I was taking communication skills with your husband.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he mentioned that he has several tattoos of your name.
Oh, no, 2.
2. What is the meaning behind them?
So he got a feather when we were dating, which he wasn't as bold as to get my name, but he calls me Heather Feather. So he got a big feather going down his. But my husband loves tattoos. Like tattoos for him are I don't have any, right? We're complementary. We're not like the same. Yeah. We are total opposites. Tattoos for him are like a self-expression. He likes it. So we were dating, and he was like, obviously we loved each other, and he was like, I'm gonna get this tattoo, and that was fine for him. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get somebody tattooed on me that I'm not married to. And then when we got married, it was like, I think the day after we got married, he went and got Heather on his chest.
That's so cool. I love that.
Me too. I love it too. And I'm not like a tattoo person, but I like his tattoos.
Yeah. But getting it while you were just dating
it's so wild. It's a choice.
You
But we talked about it, and I remember him being like, if I have a feather, it's not like, it's explainable. And he's like, I also think it's cool.
Yeah.
But it was a symbol for me.
Aw. I love that. That's so cute. Well, thank you for joining.
My honor. Thank you for having me.
I think it was a really good conversation.
Me too.
And I think more people should be having it.
And I hope people share it and like it and support Celeste.
I love that. That's so cute. Oh, do you want to plug in? She has a podcast too. It's called
Viral Jesus.
Viral Jesus.
Yes, you can find it.
Yes. Go listen. Okay. Bye.
Okay.
I love that.